important that we're gathered, but I want to remind us of what Martin Luther King said back in 1967, asked the question, where do we go from here? And one of the things that King said is in order for us to know where we go, we have to know where we are. He said that we had double, black people had double of what is bad and half of what is good in America. Today we can say that we're 50% of the prisoners. We have the highest poverty rate, the lowest education level, the highest cancer death rate, the lowest home ownership, and 1% of all business revenues. And this brutality has been kept in place by blacks, by the government, and the only government we really know, which is the police. Now, all that has happened recently has been the exposure of police brutality and the murder of black people, but it's not new. We always knew, right? This is a big part of our ongoing oppression. It is state-sponsored brutality and murder of black people. And to paraphrase my friend and comrade political prisoner Jamil Abdullah Al-Amin, formerly known as H. Rap Brown, this kind of brutality and murder of black people is as American as cherry pie. In 1966, when the Black Panther Party was formed, we wrote a 7th point to our program, and we were talking then in 1966 about we wanted an immediate end to police brutality and murder of black people, but we added something else. And I would like to propose that for some thought today, that we believe we can end police brutality in our community by organizing black self-defense groups. But this, so in other words, this conversation cannot be just about building trust between the police and the black community. This has to be about breaking the chains of our oppression that bind us. We've got to know how we got here. Something wrong with black people? You have some sort of criminal gene, inherently too stupid, lazy to get a job, to build a business. What's wrong with us? We have to remember that in America, the same rules that applied after slavery to Dred Scott applies today. The black man has no rights, the white man is bound to respect. Now, if you keep on thinking that black lives matter, you'll be deluding yourself. Unless they don't matter to you, you have to tell yourself that black lives matter. We are still in Master's house. We are still oppressed, and we are still considering that we have crumbs from the table, and this is some sort of freedom.
Reparation!
Founded on slave owning. Started out as a slave owning, gun-toting establishment of the London Company. Started out as a company, not a country. The men wielding guns were Europeans, and as slaves that were captured were Africans. Now, if we don't get that part straight, then we start thinking, what happened in Ferguson? What happened in New York? What happened in Oakland? To Oscar Grant? To Kenneth Hart? Then we ask what happened, like something new has happened. Still we rose. Huey P. Newton said the Black Panther Party started in 1600, not 1966. We fought slave rebellions, and every single step of the way we earned with every little step that we earned with blood. I know it was the blood. I know those of you here Christians know that song. I know it was the blood. That's every single thing that we got. We didn't get it because we gave, because we got it because we fought for it. We fought to survive Plessy and Jim Crow, to become citizens with the rise of the NAACP, and we fought to form our own nations and our own economic independence, with Booker T. Washington, Marcus Garvey, and the Nation of Islam. We fought lynching, we fought segregation. We fought from Mississippi to Detroit in the first migration just to get a job and build cars for Henry Ford. We walked from Louisiana to Oakland in the second great migration just to get a job to build up the business of the port for Henry Kaiser. We never got any victory from that. We stood at World Watch eventually on television while little Linda Brown's parents sued just to get an education. We think black people don't want education. We forgot Brown versus Board of Education. When Rosa Parks in the tradition of Plessy and Ida B. Wells Barnett said she just wanted a seat on the bus, we watched that just to get a seat. We ain't on the bus, didn't have 40 acres, just still trying to get a little piece of the pie, of whatever pie this was. And then we heard the whole world watch Martin Luther King make a moral demand that we have to be free at last, free at last. And it was 65 Civil Rights Act, 100 years after the end of so-called end of slavery, we could then use the toilet that white people use and vote in their elections. That's where we are right now. So when King said, where do we go from here, he began organizing where we might go, and he began demanding that we have a guaranteed income because he recognized that there was an economic foundation for the enslavement of our people and the continuing oppression. But of course, the government of this country, the government of this country, the FBI, and anybody here that doesn't think the government of this country assassinated Martin Luther King, you need to get a check. Revolutionary change. And like King, and like Malcolm X, and like the Nation of Islam, and like SNCC, and so many other blacks, we were targeted by the United States government, including the state as it represented on the streets of America by the police. So let's not get it too confused about what is the state of the police. We were deemed the greatest threat to the internal security of the United States, and ultimately the movement was killed and crack was introduced by the CIA. That's the same demographic in the young black man.